everyone's first episode of the JBR Podcast, and we're really excited to start a new story about the unsolved murder of a 6-year-old John Benet Ramsey.
Alright, so Dee Dee, tell me a little bit about the background of this case.
So we have John Benet Ramsey, a 6-year-old pageant queen who went missing on Christmas Eve of 1996, and she was found dead the same night. She lived with her brother and her parents in a wealthy family. She came from a wealthy family, and she lived in Boulder, Colorado. And despite overwhelming evidence, they still don't really know who did it. So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about this, like, crime scene and stuff?
So, Jean Benet Ramsey was found murdered in her own home. The young girl was found to have suffered from severe head trauma, asphyxiation, and sexual assault. The official cause of death is I can't say it.
Asphyxiation. Cooper, how do you say it?
Asphyxiation.
Whatever. She got strangled.
She was strangled to death. It's possible there was an intruder, or that somebody in her family murdered her.
Take
All right.
4.
Well, from the start, when the police arrived and the investigators, they made a lot of mistakes. They didn't even search the whole house. They didn't go into the basement. And they only cornered off Jean Benet's room so friends and family could roam around the house, touching stuff and moving things, and
DNA all
possibly
over the place.
destroying evidence. And the Boulder Police Department shared evidence they found with the family, so if the family was involved, they would have known
What they
to
knew.
look for. And they waited a really long time to do their interviews, so they didn't get key information that would help them with the crime scene. And at 1 p.m. that day, the detectives told the family and Mr. Ramsey to look around the house to see if anything was missing. So they obviously could have lied about something or moved something.
Mm-hmm.
And John Ramsey, he went to the basement and found his daughter dead. And
Why would he even go to the basement, though? That's such a weird
Yeah.
place. Like, someone's like, hey, is anything missing? They're like, yes, the basement. But
that was the
still,
first
that's
place he
sus.
went, and he found her, and
Oh.
he picked her up and brought her upstairs. So he destroyed all that possible evidence.
Did he do it on purpose?
I don't know, but he disturbed that whole crime scene, and
Of course.
it really that was a big part of the crime scene, that a mistake was made.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of physical evidence that was ruined. And another thing is, there was the 2 big theories in the case, whether it was the family who did it or the intruder theory. And
Yeah.
most of the crime scene has physical evidence that supports the intruder theory.
So why don't we talk a little bit more about this ransom note? Because I read a little bit. So the reason why people think that it was the parents is because this ransom note was just so bizarre. So it made it seem like John Benet was kidnapped and then held for ransom. The note said that they wanted $115,000, which was the exact amount of her dad's Christmas bonus. So it made it seem like only someone in the family or that knew the family really well would have taken her, because why would you ask for such a kind of low amount when these people were straight up millionaires, and they would have paid obviously anything to get their kid back. So that was just definitely something weird. Also, they found that the pen and the pad of paper came from the house, and what person's gonna write them ransom note while they're kidnapping the kid in the house? The whole thing just seems kind of fishy to me. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely think that it was probably one of the family members, because where would they know to get this paper and the pen or whatever?
Exactly.
And the police found the notepad in the kitchen with a practice
Really?
with a practice ransom note, and it was like some of the writing was exactly the same.
Yeah. I also heard that they cross-referenced the writing between obviously the members of the family, and they found that I think it was the dad was cleared and the brother was cleared, but the mom was not cleared. So they think it might have been her handwriting, which is just like why would that happen? So why don't you tell us a little bit more about this basement then?
Well, one important thing was she was found in a suitcase.
Oh.
She was found in a suitcase, and there was a lot of weird things that went on, like around her and what happened to her. Like she was found tied up with, I don't know what they called it, like the weird. She had like something tied to her hands.
Oh, like
Sort
twine maybe? No.
It was sort of like a G.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
I know what you're talking about.
Her hands were like tied to that, and then they were tied to like her feet, and it was really weird. And then they never examined that, like the rope was tied to like some plastic thing to hold her hands, and they never tested that for DNA.
That just sounds
Which
like
is-
shoddy police work if you ask me.
And
For sure.
there was also duct tape on her mouth that John Ramsey removed.
Why? Did he think she was still alive maybe?
He might have.
Oh, that's
And-
sad.
But that destroyed a lot of evidence too. Because I don't know if they found that piece of tape or anything, but because maybe if somebody put it on her, a fingerprint might have
Oh
been
yeah,
on it,
definitely.
and that would have been
That could
really
have been
important.
crucial to the case. Maybe that's why he purposely took it off too, though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's transition a little bit into suspects now that we have like the base of like